good friend, the late, great Zig Ziglar, used to say, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. That means no matter what you're doing, you need a target. You need to focus on something. It's like running a race with no finish line. How do you know who won? You don't.
And that's so true in your money, too. We talk to people all the time, students and adults, who say that they're winning with money. But when we start to drill down a little bit and ask them to explain how they're winning, they have no idea. They have no goals in mind to really let them know if they're winning or not. They're clueless. You guys, if you don't have a plan with your money, you're lost. And that plan starts with a budget. You're going to hear us say this a lot throughout this class. And seriously, I don't care if you're 15 or 55. If you're not doing a budget, you're not going to win with money, period. The budget is your written plan. It tells every dollar where it's going. Trying to manage money without doing a budget is like driving a car blindfolded. Sure, you'll go somewhere, but you have no idea where you'll end up or how much damage you'll do along the way getting there.
So the budget is just going to be a given. We'll teach you how to do a budget even on a student's income. And with everything else we're doing in this class, we're just going to assume you're doing a budget every single month like we teach. But beyond that, we're going to walk you through what we call the 5 foundations. These are 5 specific steps that you'll take as you get control of your money and look toward the future. The first foundation is all about emergencies. You're going to save $500 in an emergency fund. That means you're going to put $500 in the bank and you're not going to touch it for anything, even purchases. It's there to be your little buffer between you and life. We're going to talk a lot more about this foundation later in the chapter.
The second foundation is just as important. Get out of debt. Our culture gets pretty confused about debt these days, so let me clear it up for you. Debt is owing anything to anyone for any reason. A car loan? Debt. Credit cards? Debt. Borrowing $50 from mom and dad for concert tickets? Debt. Student loans for college? Big debt. Huge debt. Debt robs you of your future and kills your opportunities. We're going to talk a lot about that later.
Okay, the first 2 foundations clear away the clutter and get you on solid ground. Now, it's time to crank it up a notch. The third foundation is pay cash for your car. That's right, we don't do debt, remember? That means you're never, ever going to take out a car loan. You're going to work and save money to pay cash for a car.
Now the fourth foundation, pay cash for college. We're going to talk a lot about how to pay cash for college later in this class. But for now, I want you to understand that student loans are not your friends. They will be an anchor around your neck for decades if you play this game.
The 5th foundation is my favorite, and it's definitely the most fun. Build wealth and give a lot of it away. We'll talk about investments later in the course, and trust me, anyone can become a millionaire in this country. Don't let the talking heads on the news or your whiny, broke neighbor convince you otherwise. If you do the stuff we teach you, you will build wealth. And do you know what the most fun you can have with money is? It's giving it away to help someone. And I'm not talking about the government coming in and taking your money and giving it to other people. I'm talking about you making your own decisions about how you can help other people. If your generation actually took control of their money and built wealth and understood how amazing it is to really help people through giving wisely, then the world will become a much better place.
So that's the 5 foundations. Number 1, save for a $500 emergency fund. Number 2, get out of debt. Number 3, pay cash for your car. Number 4, pay cash for college. And number 5, build wealth and give. That's the framework of your financial journey. And we'll keep coming back to these 5 things throughout this class. These foundations will become your measuring stick to see whether or not you're really winning with money.
Let's talk about the first foundation. Remember, the first foundation is to save $500 in an emergency fund. Okay, so what's that mean? What is an emergency? Well, when you're in high school, you aren't going to have the same kind of emergencies as your parents. You're probably not going to have to worry about replacing the roof on your house or paying medical bills. But you may have to deal with a flat tire sometime, or you could drop your cell phone in the toilet. What? Well, people do it. When that happens, you need to have money on hand to cover the unexpected emergencies. But here's the truth. There's really no such thing as an unexpected emergency. Emergencies are going to happen, expected. Now, I don't care how old you are. You're going to face some urgent surprise emergency expenses. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, then debt will start looking like your answer, like an easy answer. And that's how a lot of people end up buried under a mountain of debt. They just never plan to have an emergency. And when something happens, they reach for a credit card, and trust me, a real emergency is the last time you need to go into debt. Debt never solves a problem. At best, it delays one problem while creating another one. It's a trap, and it can ruin your life. So for now, you're going to put $500 in the bank. Now, when you're a little older and out of school, we'll grow that emergency fund into a full 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. But we don't have to worry about that today. Today, we're just focused on the $500. And since this is for emergencies only, you put your emergency fund in the bank, literally. You really do that. And it needs to be far enough out of your reach that you can't run and grab it when the pizza guy rings the doorbell. But it needs to be close enough for you to get your money whenever you really need it. Now, don't mix this with other money. If you've already got a bank account that you use for regular expenses, then I want you to open a separate account to keep your emergency money in. If you keep your emergency money in the same place as your iTunes and your Amazon money, and when you're going out to eat, then your emergency fund's going to disappear because everything looks like an emergency. Like I said, it needs to be far enough out of reach that you can't spend it by accident or by impulse, but close enough for you to get to it when you really need it. It's financial talk with an attitude. You're listening to the Dave Ramsey Show. Up next is Dallas, Texas. Riley is calling. Hi, Riley. What's up?
Hey, Dave. Should I have 2 savings accounts, one for a car and another for emergencies?
I think that's a great idea. I wouldn't have 10 savings accounts, but I would have 2. I recommend for adults that are out there that they keep an emergency fund that is completely separate from their other savings. And that way you don't accidentally think buying a car or buying a couch is an emergency. Because we all know in our brains that it's not an emergency, but boy, when you get in the heat of the moment, you need that money, it's real easy to use it. So, yeah, I always tell people to keep their emergency fund separate from their other savings. Now, in your other savings, you're saving for a car, but if you also were saving up for spring break, or you were saving up for the purchase of something else, you'd want to just keep yourself a little ledger as to what that money in the savings is. In other words, if I got $5,000 in there towards my car and I've got $300 saved towards summer vacation, then we need to keep it broken down like that so you don't spend your summer vacation money on the car or your car money on the summer vacation. So just kind of keep yourself a little ledger with it broken down, but definitely keep the emergency fund as a completely separate account. Good question, Riley. Thanks for calling in. You've got to make it a priority. Let's kind of talk about it this way. How many of you in here have children? Raise your hand. Once I get your hand up, keep it up. Now, if you have children, how many of you, keep your hand up. If you don't have children, how many of you hope to someday? Or there's a child anywhere on the planet you kind of like? Okay, now that's just about everybody, right? So stay with me here. Now, you can put your hands down, but let's pretend for a second that a disease had broken out. That would be awful. And there was a vaccine that was needed to save the life of your child. And that vaccine was going to cost $5,000 cash, and you had to save $5,000 cash by the end of the year. You had to save $5,000 cash by 6 or 8 months from now. And you couldn't go get it. You had to change your behaviors and save money. If it meant the life of your child, how many of us could find and save $5,000? One lady's like, which kid? But we could do it. All that means is this. Now, obviously, that we didn't give you a raise. We didn't give you a budgeting technique. We didn't give you some magic pill to make you rich. You changed your priorities. In that horrible, macabre example, you looked at it and you said, if I had to, I could do it. If it became important enough to me, I could do it. You would reprioritize your life. Let me tell you what, that's when people start saving money. When it becomes important, and it's important. Saving money as a way of life is an exercise of character. It's an exercise of emotion. It's absolutely vital. Saving money is about emotion, and it's about contentment. When we use that example of the vaccine with a child, your emotion gets you, and you say, I can do this. Ooh. And it's also about contentment. It's about, you know what, I don't have to impress you. I don't have to buy something to feel good about myself. It's okay to get me some stuff, but I'm just going to be okay where I am, because it's more important for me to be able to have some savings to go to college, send my kids to college, to retire with dignity, to change my family tree, to have some stability for the first time ever in our household. That's more important than buying that thingy. And I'm not against thingies, but there's a process here that you've got to engage in. It has to become very, very important. And our parents never talked about savings much. For that matter, in a lot of households, parents didn't talk about money, did they? Our parents didn't talk about money, they didn't talk about sex. We figured they had neither. Turns out they had both. And so we got to talk about this out loud. We got to say savings matters. You know, according to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, 58% of American workers have never even calculated what it'll take for them to retire with dignity. And 59% said they hope to have a standard of living equal or better to their working years. Now listen to this. 58% have never run a calculator, look at it, but 59% have hope of being better. What kind of stupidity is that? That's total disconnect in the way we're looking at money, in the way we're handling money. It doesn't work. Well, if I save money and I do the stuff you teach, I'm going to become rich and evil. And if I have money, I'll be an evil rich person. Yeah. There's a plan. But haven't we gotten this disconnect going there, seriously, where we think that everybody that's got money is evil or something? Sometimes we watch too much TV, I think. You know, the truth about money is that money is amoral. That means it doesn't have morals. It's not good and it's not bad. It doesn't make decisions. It functions based on what you or I do with it when we touch it. When we put it in the hands of a human is when we see it change. Now, it's kind of like this brick. This brick is amoral. I can take this brick and throw it through a plate glass window. Or I can take this brick and build a hospital or a home for unwed mothers. I can take this brick and build a clinic in a neighborhood that doesn't have one. The brick doesn't care. It's just a brick, but when you put it in the hands of a human, it starts taking on life, and then we say, oh, that guy's got a bunch of bricks, he must be evil. Or that one has no bricks, he must be good. And we start making these judgments. It's just a brick. Let me tell you, I have met rich people who are total greedy jerks. Have you? Say yes. Yes. I have met poor people that are total greedy jerks. Have you? Yes. I've met poor people that are some of the most godly people on the planet, haven't you? Yes. I've met some rich people that are absolutely incredible human beings and do all kinds of cool things with their wealth and are some of the most godly people on the planet, haven't you? Yes. You see, it's not the money, is it? If you're a jerk and you've got bricks, or you're a jerk and you haven't got bricks, you're still a jerk. Money is amoral. You're not bad because you've got some. You're not good because you don't. It doesn't work that way.